Now that's significant. The Market Research Podcast.
Industry conferences are a well-known source of news, trends, predictions, and connections. Speakers are generally those who have been in the trenches and able to share their learnings and experiences with others. Conferences are also a place well known for businesses to come and push their shiny, sparkly new wares, their products, their services, which are set to change the game forever. So my question, which I'm interested in to explore today, is how aligned are these optimistic vendors and suppliers with those who are on the tools in the corporate world? Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this latest episode of Now That's Significant, a market research podcast. This is your host, Michael Howard, the head of marketing at InfoTools. Today, we're joined once again by Dan Berkal, SVP at the Palmerston Group. Daniel, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Thank you so much. How are you doing?
Well, thank you. So,
Also well.
What's the most significant thing you're going to tell us today?
Oh, what's the most significance up to, I guess, the listener to decide what that is. But I think I want to explore what it's like to go to a market research conference from a supplier point of view. I work in the business. I run projects. I run a company that does market research, and I go to these things, and there are vendors there. There are other suppliers, and it's an interesting dance. And I kind of want to talk about how that plays out.
Yes. So as we kick off today's discussion, are there any general points you want to get us started on?
What's interesting now, I think there's been a new appreciation for conferences. And I think that new appreciation, obviously comes out of COVID. For 2+ years, we were stuck in our houses. We couldn't go outside. And since that point in time, a lot of our working situations have changed for many of us. Like I know myself, I used to work in an office, and now I work out of my house. And that's the case for many people in the business. Decentralized teams, also work going more virtual in the market research industry as opposed to face-to-face has happened pretty heavily. So conferences are this rare occasion where everyone kind of physically goes from wherever they're at into one space. And that's an interesting thing because not only given the current the situation of being post-COVID, but also having all these individuals who are interested in exploring insights in various ways and trying to get their agenda across is fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I've been to plenty of conferences as well prior to COVID. Not so many after, interestingly as well, but I guess it depends where you're based versus where your target audience is as well.
Of course. I have to tell you, I used to go to many, many conferences back in the pre-COVID days. And there was this very special moment for everyone, I think. The first conference you went to after COVID, whatever conference it may have been, it was different for every person. But that first conference, everyone had that look that was the same as when they walk into Disneyland as a kid. It was that look of like just complete shock and wonder and the potential of possibilities and that eventually fades away. But it was neat to watch all of us grizzled veterans get emotional and warm in a really honest, natural way.
Yeah, I think I had a similar experience, but actually in a sporting game. So while the rest of the world was still locked up and isolating, we were at a rugby game watching that, and it was quite surreal in one sense that no one else is doing any of this, but we were free to do our thing. So yeah, I could definitely relate to that, but also to the conference as well.
Yeah, and but that novelty fades away, and I think it's for all of us. I think the way, whether you're on the vendor side or the supplier side, the vendor side, any angle you come to a conference at, keeping that sense of wonder, that's the challenge. And I admit I'm losing it. I think that this year I've gone to a number of conferences, but I want to get that every time. I want to walk in and just be like amazed that all these humans came to one room in one random city uh, to interact around our mutual interest.
Mm. I guess a good place to move this conversation to is workshops versus presentations. Now, I know at Crit Conference in Toronto earlier this year, you facilitated a half-day workshop. How do you feel these workshops landed compared to the presentations that were subsequently held? Did you get feedback that backed up your position?
Yes. Deadly honest, workshops are incredible at conferences because it's a chance to have a hands-on learning lab around a topic. And you're working with not just strangers, you're working with people who are at significant level in the business who are spending a half day of their time or a day of their time to engage into a topic. So everyone's interested, everyone's bought in, and it's quite interactive. Whereas a presentation, a lecture at a conference can often be a lean back thing where you as the audience end up just kind of listening to things. You can get that on TV, you can get that on YouTube, you can get that on a webinar. But a workshop, you can't. A workshop, it really was interesting leading that particular workshop. So the workshop at the Crit conference in Toronto, I quite like that. I got great feedback about it. And I think the reason why, there's a couple of reasons why, but I think the real thing from my angle as a person teaching the workshop, running the workshop, was the interaction level. I got to get physically close to people. I don't mean like to a creepy sense, as far as I can tell. But I got to like wander the tables and sit down with people, stand up with people, lean in. We got to move around the room a bit. And it was, I think there's that tactile sensation that makes things not only communicated more effectively, but also makes everyone passionate about what you're learning about. That workshop was pretty good. That was a great workshop. You should have
Well,
come.
well, one of my colleagues did, John Bird, so he raved about it as well.
No, I'm aware of that, but I would like, in an ideal world, I would like to do more workshops and less lectures.
Mm.
Um, because I just find that hands, it's like when you're in university, right? When you're in uni, you have like the lecture classes or the seminars where you get to actually do more hands-on either projects or learning or group projects. What a conference workshop does when I think done well is it gets a bunch of people from different areas to work together on something, which I like. It gets people physically sitting at a table, so there's conversations going on consistently. It has a good cadence to it also. It's not just talk, 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 listen, listen, listen. There's question asking throughout. You can see but we're on video right now, so that's why you can see me.
Yeah.
But you can see on my face, I get interested in this kind of thing.
Mm. What I really like about workshops is we live in a world where there's so many distractions, and it's so easy if you're sitting in a theatre to have your laptop out taking notes, and an email pops up, or you're taking notes on your phone and you get a text message, and your concentration is diverted from what you're sitting there and doing. But if you're in a workshop, you can have a rule where there's no technology, so that all gets parked on the sides, and you've just got a pen and piece of paper. You've got that focus in the room, and
Totally.
John
Totally.
Cleese, for instance, said that creativity, in order for it to get to your most discovery, I guess, zone, you need about 2 hours of uninterrupted time just on that particular subject, ruminating. And we're lucky to get 15 minutes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like okay, so I'm a good example, maybe a bad example, but in a conference, in a lecture, I'm the person who often leaves and walks into the hallway. My attention span is like a small animal. I can't keep things focused very well, which is fine. And I think it's lovely. But in a workshop, I can't do that. I do get engaged and I get, and also that lack of distractions you mentioned. The distractions are still there. My phone's still in my pocket, so is everyone else's. Like your computer is still somewhere nearby. There's still things outside, but often the distractions are mutual distractions for everyone. Like in
Mm.
that workshop in Toronto, there was a window outside that we could see people lining up for a ferry. And so every half an hour, there was a crowd of people walking towards that ferry, and they captivated everyone's distraction at the same time. I did a workshop in France or in Belgium earlier this year, where similarly there was an outside window, and whenever something happened outside, everyone kind of looked over there. And I think it's getting all in the same metronome that makes it such a valuable experience. I don't know. These are things I think about a little bit, but it, for those of you listening who have not gone to a workshop at a conference, I would recommend that strongly. It
Mm.
doesn't have to be one of my workshops. It can be anyone's. I mean, but it's a really nice change of pace, especially since we all work so hard and we all are so wrapped up in client stuff and um, P&L and all these pieces of the business. Being able just to learn with people who are your peers is a really nice place to be.
Yes, absolutely. So technology is always going to be a big aspect at conference, digital channels, and on social media too. I guess none more so than generative AI in recent years. What have you witnessed when it comes to supply and demand of Gen AI? Is there an equilibrium that we're seeing? Will there ever be?
Will there be? Yes. Is there now? No. Right now, if anyone listening to this who has gone to any market research event or any event in any sphere, the entirety of the agenda has been AI driven. The word AI comes up in every single line of a schedule for a conference or for an event, even on LinkedIn. If you troll through posts on LinkedIn, everyone's talking AI this, AI that. And it reminds me very much of back in like 1993 or 1992. I'm dating myself a bit here, but like the World Wide Web was like the big thing. Or before that, CD-ROMs were the huge thing, or cell phones, or and AI is like that just times a million. So it's kind of the Wild West. And there are so many people claiming to be experts in this field. Um, I don't know how anyone can be an expert in this field after, 3 to 5 years, or whatever it's been. It's been a moment in time, and like I know that in the AI field, I'm considered by many people that I've talked to be an expert in the use of qual and AI, and if I'm being considered an expert, that means that we're not there yet because not because I don't know what I'm talking about, but also because I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm still exploring. And I think we're all exploring together, and it's a very strange time. So the question was about equilibrium. Do I think that we'll start getting um, more of more of an ability to figure out what's valuable and what's not? Absolutely. And I think that time's coming pretty soon. I think right now the first dance with AI is kind of happening now, and we'll see. But predicting the future is not my game. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
No, I mean, as long as if you're focused on the fundamentals, I guess that's a very good place to start, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think right now with AI, it's exploring.
Yeah.
But I think we have to all explore with a really suspicious lens,
Mm.
because any company, any service provider, any um, any research provider that's promising the world that they know what's going on is lying to you. Because it is still the infancy of this business. I think there are some very, very good companies out there that are doing interesting things, but I think we're all learning. So I think just having that suspicion built in is, and suspicion doesn't mean that things are necessarily trying to cheat you or bad or not valuable. It's just look with your research lens. And I'm rambling more than I usually am.
Yeah,
This is good. This is fun.
nice. I mean, the events at the end of last week, and this could date this conversation,
Yes.
with CrowdStrike and the global outages that ensued as a result of an IT issue. I mean, for us, it was 4:50 p.m. on a Friday afternoon,
Yeah.
and our internet went, and our IT team were about to go home. They didn't know that they were still going to be in the office for another 7 or so hours later trying to resolve things. Um, I mean, that's raised concerns about the interconnectedness of modern software. Um, so, yeah, interested on your thoughts on how this might impact those offering, say, like end-to-end macro products versus, your best-in-class micro offerings. So there's quite a bit at stake now, isn't there?
Yeah, so I live in Canada. We had this problem about a year and a half ago, give or take, where one of the large telecom companies went blank for a bit, and pretty much one half of the country was offline for the day. But yeah, putting your eggs all in one basket is a terrifying thing, right? And I don't think there's any one way around that. The CrowdStrike issue last week, when we're recording this, was it timed out well for me because I was taking the day off anyways, so it timed out really well for me. But yeah, like we all work so fast and so internationally and so interconnectedly, and we all tend to go to one of the same 3 lanes or 4 lanes of processing in the end. If one of those goes out, I think it's smart to have a backup, but at some point, I'm not sure how you do it. Like, um, I find that to be the also when things like that happen, it's like when a blackout happens at your house and the power goes out. What do? You might grab a book, you might go outside, you might but eventually you're limited in you feel stuck. And that happened with that thing last week for sure. Like people just gave up. The banks didn't work, the airlines didn't work, the your email system didn't work. You couldn't log into your authenticators in your computer. What a time to be alive.
And
Yeah.
thankfully, Tesla's kept on rolling.
What's that?
Tesla's kept on rolling.
They did, yeah. I think so. I don't have one, but I think they did. I mean, but yeah, like, I don't, it's a bigger question. I don't have an answer for it. I don't
Mm,
know. I think in research though, like you can't put all your eggs in one basket, or no, you can't. You shouldn't, as much
mm.
as you possibly cannot. But again, like I know on my end, I use the same, the operating system I use for all my devices is pretty much the same. And so if there's a problem there, all of my devices are going down.
I,
And yeah,
I like what you were saying about having different streams of work and ensuring that you're not doing like the one thing on all one stream in all environments, I guess, if or all streams in one environment. Like being able to tap into that, which makes us human, our curiosity, etc. So utilizing that downtime, if we ever have it, in other ways, it's a really good piece of advice.
yeah. I mean, what could be interesting, and I don't do this, but I should. Like, I would love to. We all have those things that we want to work on, but we don't have the time to work on them. It would be amazing just to have a post-it note on the side of your computer frame that you when the blackout happens or when the computers go down, you go to that post note and you do that thing, and it gives
Mm,
you like an agenda in advance. Kind of like when I used to be a staff at a summer camp, and whenever we made a program for any kind of thing, we always had to have a rainy day plan. We had to
nice.
always make a plan, like what if it rains? The what if it rains happens in business as well. The rain might not be actual water falling from the sky. It might be a thousand maladies of our modern age. But
Now, I'd be interested to hear if we have another podcast, what your rainy day activity was in the time that we met, and what value did it bring to your business as well. Um,
yeah, like, I don't know. It's also interesting. Like my rainy day thing would probably be music, but all of my instruments plug into something. So if the power goes out, I'm doomed. Um, I'll get back to you. We'll talk next time.
nice. So, synthetic data, virtual audiences, or whatever else you want to label them, they've also been doing the rounds. Are
Yeah.
we getting any consensus, closer to a consensus on its use?
So my opinion, this is only my opinion, is that it's a very good thing. I think it's a very good thing with a very bad name. I think the word synthetic makes people believe not real. And that label, that brand, isn't a good brand for that thing. But I like how it's able to expand the potentials of, like, for example, a limited sized audience, or and I think that we all know from polling that data is replicable, like that over a large enough population, you can get patterns, and this plays into that. And I think it's a really it's been eating the oxygen in the room at every conference I've gone to the last little bit. For quant, for sure. I know one person doing it in qual or playing with it in qual, and I think I mean, my initial reaction to that was this is craziness, but it's probably not craziness. It probably is actually very valuable, and that's going to be a dominant theme in the business also. The question, of course, is going to become, is there a premium that clients will pay for non-synthetic data? Is there a premium in terms of either in time or in money or in is there a higher value uh, or is it completely analogous to what real in quotation marks people think?
Mm. I mean, like in all business, there's opportunity costs for going one way or the other, aren't there? And you can A/B test things to a certain point, but you often aren't going to fully know what you were missing out on, or what you could have gained, or what you didn't gain from going one way or another.
That's right. And technology is interesting in that technology, when used correctly, when adopted fully, becomes indistinguishable from reality. For example, like you and I have never been in the same room, I don't believe, right, or the same country. But we had a conversation before this. Like we're friends. We talk about things. It feels like we're in the same room right now, kind of, right? But the technology to make that happen, we're not questioning it. Am I getting a legitimate picture of Michael on screen, right? I just believe it's you. And I don't think it's exactly the same thing as synthetic data usage, but I think the technology, when optimized, ends up being a pretty realistic portrayal of what the real world is like.
Hmm. Yes, data quality, data panel quality, sample quality, etc. That's also been a perpetual hot topic. Um, are, are these continuing to be issues, or are some in the industry just fanning the flames, overstating the issues that businesses are actually experiencing?
Well, so in the qual business, I work in qualitative pretty much, I would say 90% of the time, right? Maybe 95%. In the qualitative business, sample quality and the people you find in the wild, so to speak, has actually gotten worse because of all these technological developments. Like AI has made it so that anyone can answer an articulation question very well. And we often now, we use a number of panels for certain recruits, and we'll often find in almost any recruit we do, no matter what the size is, about 10% of people are just not who they say they are and are clearly using it's generally like a chat GPT type thing to answer questions the way they believe they should be answered. Um, and so what we've had to do for panel quality is shift the way that we ask things. Um, and a lot of it ends up being the first 2 minutes of an interview when you're talking to someone in person or on the video, asking questions that are meant to um, either qualify, confirm, or deny someone.
Mm.
Um, that wasn't your exact question, but it speaks
Oh,
into my, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that is it is always interesting just what some people will do to try and game the system to um so
Well, why wouldn't you? Like, if you were promised easy money from a nonstop stream of people asking for things, all you have to do is answer a couple questions using a machine that will give you answers to questions. Why wouldn't you do that if you needed? Oh, I understand them. It drives me nuts. Fraudulent respondents are so frustrating to me because for a number of reasons. But like I get it. I get the easy money part of it, but maybe it has to go with incentives then. Maybe we don't offer people money incentives to take part in surveys. Maybe there's something else that has value that
mm,
is value that's intrinsic to the topic being studied potentially.
yes, that's a good point. Um so I guess just focusing on agencies now, both big and small. If we think
Yeah.
about the current economic climate and the impact of recessional budgets that have been seen on insights teams, are you seeing any overall alignment between agencies and those in the corporate space?
We've seen budgets become more, people want things fast. So the time part of the budget is really, in the qual space is really hitting up. But I actually have found budgets shrinking across the projects we work on. And well, we've been doing this for 17 years, so I think we have some kind of roadmap on what to expect. I've seen things shrink. Um, and with the expectation they'll be faster. And I'm not sure if that's what everyone else is seeing, but that's what I'm seeing. But that's just part of the business. Like things will change over time. So I can't um but I can't speak to I also find that corporations don't want to not corporations. Research departments at large corporations seem to be less inclined to travel for things.
Mm,
I've seen a lot less of a desire for face-to-face stuff and a lot less of a desire for ethnography. We have one client now who's doing a large ethno project around the world, and we're very excited about it because that's our business. But like, I gotta tell you, it's been so long since we've had someone like that go on that it gets us all excited about it now, which is cool. But the fact that it's not being a consistent stream of things shows just the shifting nature of the business.
mm. Yeah, it definitely helps if you have a distributed workforce that can, I guess, not need to travel to do that, isn't it?
Well, that's right. And also because of Zoom and because of online in general and because of the quality of it, um I also the mass societal acceptance. Um like so many people don't go to an office even, but how can you expect them to go to, you know, Montana for a project, right?
Mm,
Um, I'm not sure what you studied in Montana, but there's something.
yes. Uh, Big blue sky.
Big blue sky. Yeah.
Yeah. Lastly, what's it going to take to reduce some of the delta that we've discussed today between corporate research teams and the rest of the industry?
I think that for all of us, whether you're, again, corporate research side, vendor side, supplier side, support side, at any time we go to an event, anytime that we're all in the same room, the room doesn't have to be a physical room. It could be a virtual room, but physical room works even better. We all have to remember we're all on the same page. So as opposed to it being a sales kind of driven interaction, I find that the best interactions between any of the players, whether it's corporate, vendor, supplier, etc., is when you realize, hey, we're all interested in learning about how people do things, how people behave, interact, buy. Um, and that mutual curiosity that we all share, I think, is what ties us together. And so I'd love, and the conferences, the events that I've gone to that I've walked away from feeling really inspired are those where that exists, where it's also becoming a transactional thing where you're trying to sell your thing and someone else trying to buy your thing. And it's much more about, hey, we're all interested in learning about people. And that being on the same page really helps out.
Mm.
Did that answer your question, or did that?
No, it did indeed. And yeah, like the understanding, that curiosity. I mean, for me personally, curiosity is a big part of who I am. I'm lucky enough to have conversations with hundreds of experts in the market research field, and like just getting little tidbits from various people on their how they do things, on what they've learned, etc. It's all really fascinating and just helping, I guess, build me, but also and hopefully those that are listening as well.
Well, absolutely. And you have a podcast that you're able to do this, but like at any time you're interacting with someone else, whether or not they're in the business or not, like you are, not you personally, but like everyone is their own podcast, so to speak, right? Everyone
Mm.
is their own, like it will enrich you by talking to other people, by learning new things. And I always encourage folks that I work with to maximize their conversations and just learn things and explore their curiosity that way. And so you're lucky to get the chance to do it professionally.
Mm. And you get to do so in workshops and whatnot. So I guess
Mm.
we're all winners.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Daniel.
It's always a pleasure talking to you. And who knows, maybe one day we'll do this in person.
Yes, I do want to get to the States of Canada at some stage. So maybe this time, or maybe next year is going to be the one.
And likewise, I'm trying to get to your part of the world at some point too. So we'll both work on that goal, and we'll make a rainy day plan to make
Let's
that
just
goal happen.
let's just make sure it's not at the same time.
Exactly. Wouldn't that be funny? Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show, and thank you to those who have also tuned in today. If you have liked what you've heard, feel free to share this podcast with others. Subscribe to the podcast, or even leave a review if you have the time. With that, thanks for listening to Now That's Significant.
Thank you.